Anthem is the best unlicensed Iron Man game ever created. If it were, it would be the best licensed Iron Man game ever created. Anthem's potential death could have came in the first 5 minutes if the game had not controlled and played smoothly, since Anthem has, as its selling point, gone for extreme movement. Anthem is leaning into the Warframe style movement, and thankfully, this is the area where BioWare seems to have spent the most time in polishing thus far to ensure that it works well. I hear complaints that on PC the handling is not as good, but on console it felt polished. My overall impression coming off of the Anthem VIP demo is a good one. The bad news is that this is only a vertical slice demo, and I have a bad track record at this point of assuming based upon betas and pre-release that a game will be more than its hype, and a game rewarding of the time and money we put into these things. We've all learned that press briefings and articles and things titled beta that are not really beta are not indicators of anything except that the publisher would like to sell you some copies and maybe a bag or two and a leather jacket and a squirt bottle too. So sure, this is the game that finally itches that itch. Maybe. Who knows? The good news is that the flying, pew-pew, and general shenanigans works really well. Those are the mechanics that are likely more set in stone, and if that be the case, the gameplay is at least fun, smooth, and lightning fast. Enemies are your classic bullet sponges, yes, and cheesing tended to be a thing, but with grinding up a better combo of gear and abilities, unlike Destiny where your Warlock Sunsinger is near identical to my Sunsinger outside of some gear differences, the subclasses in Anthem appear to be largely player built. What components do you run? What's your kit of abilities? And this can vary widely from venom shots to explosive sticky bombs, and even your guns will play into how your ranger is not like my ranger, and vice versa. Anthem takes a standard third-person camera view, then allows you to fly. This flying could be extraordinarily awful had it not been pulled off well. Thankfully it has been, at least on console. Filling out the controls, it appears BioWare has programmed in a lot of leniency into the auto-aim and player movement so that it is especially good at assuming what you wanted to do. Another system that, had it not been programmed well, could be a disaster since flying is so fundamental to the game. By this I mean when games say have a cover system that isn't programmed very well, it's far too sensitive or something, and it has a latch button and your character will run across the map and grab a wall you didn't even see because you latched to something you didn't know, but your character is just making huge assumptions. The game is assuming what you wanted to do. Or you've probably had it happen in Fortnite. I know I have a lot. When you reload your gun and you start automatically reviving your buddy, or you switch to the med kit by accident, you're sitting there healing and you can't switch off of it, or you're going for the revive and you keep reloading your gun. I found that I didn't do the best in making some jumps in Anthem, or I changed my mind last minute to go for a revive, and the game seemed to compensate for my mistakes. While this may seem to bother some people, I believe it's this forgiveness in the movement that is creating such a smooth experience when we're talking about the kind of speed that Anthem's trying to bring to you. You're not in full control. The game has given you a little bit of a handicap, unlike Titanfall where it's totally up to you to really move fast. Anthem is making itself very accessible so that everybody can kind of get that hyper intense speed that they're going for. So overall, I felt with their control system that I was doing more what I had in my head more often than I was likely controlling, which I think would be an example of a handicap that's actually working well. The next thing Anthem has going for it is that BioWare appears to be being BioWare, and has grounded their game in a single-player hub where the player goes after missions, and much to my surprise, was dialogue choices, and thus far an entertaining story. Granted, there was some adjectives and some pronouns, but it wasn't Destiny's affair of strictly pronouns and strictly adjectives. The darkness, vagueness, and giant fantasy bosses with huge health bars. There was huge health bars, but I think the giant boss this time was literally just called like Giant Spider Queen. It wasn't horrendously implorable. Of course, anything Anthem needs to be compared with Destiny because there are a lot of similarities. Holy crap. They are definitely cut of the same cloth. And BioWare has responded to complaints of the single-player base and has added a social hub when the game launches called the Launching Point, so you can hang out just like the tower in Destiny. Personally, I only found the single-player hub to be weird because it was in first person in a third-person game, and it's a third-person game where you fly at rapid speeds, and then in single-player you just sort of walk around. But otherwise, I think that it's an experiment that could be the missing link in why these shared world games tend to struggle with their storytelling. I felt a lot more connected with the story in Anthem thus far than I ever did with Destiny, even Destiny 2 that really stepped it up quite a lot. The demo of this video is being made off of only features 3 story missions that I had scoffed at and I figured to be the usual fluff affair, only there to loosely support the pew-pewing, but I found that I was intrigued, and I enjoyed pushing ahead to see what happened next and how some dialogue choices would come to bear. It has me all very excited that Anthem could resurrect what made Mass Effect the legend it is, and I'm hoping that EA, knowing their record in this department, does not inhale another company like they inhaled Maxis. BioWare is owned by EA, but EA could gain some much needed respite if it turns out that BioWare is still largely the same creative force it was in the past, creating the greatest RPGs ever made: Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter's Night, Dragon Age, Knights of the Old Republic, and Mass Effect. In all fairness and all honesty, Anthem feels like BioWare does Destiny, and that makes me more excited for it, and already it is a better storytelling game that Destiny ever hoped to be in because of this. The development company on Anthem's box carries a lot of weight. To be fair, I said that about Fallout 76. I said, hey, this is Bethesda, therefore it's going to be okay, but there had to be some illusion done there on our part. And in Anthem's case, there's less of the leap of logic or faith required to assume that this game should turn out at least okay. Certainly playable. Now, long term, I have no idea what happens. In fact, I got a video I'm working on for that, but in the immediate, certainly there's real strengths to this game. And supporting its strength is that it appears that BioWare is locked into the zeitgeist of our gaming times. They're not committing the same old mistakes that especially EA is notorious for, and then with Mass Effect Andromeda, BioWare struggled with. EA is appearing largely hands-off in this, especially on this game, and they're only really there as a helping hand. EA help, EA servers. Otherwise, you don't really see them much. They almost have tried to detach themselves from the fact that they made this and really attach the BioWare name to it. And the BioWare team is being especially transparent. They were honest that that this was, for instance, a demo, not a beta. And when the demo didn't work, they were the first to admit it and say they're working on it. So there's not like deal with it, or there's not the Battlefield, if you don't like it, don't buy it going on right now. The microtransactions are cosmetic, and judging from the demo, they will not really be the full determining factor in how your javelin looks, because miracle of miracles, we can actually change the color and look of our avatar without random chance loot boxes or 99 cents per color. They gave the player a lot of freedom there. Anthem is self-aware that the bosses are bullet sponges. Honestly, it's a staple of the genre. It's near impossible to not have one of these looter shooters and not have an enemy that has a massive amount of health, because you're going to start getting so powerful. It's one of the only ways that developers, outside of doing like Destiny style raids, which are unique and they're especially good for what they're doing, but there's only so very few players that can really get to enjoy those kinds of things. And I think also you should ask yourself, would a Destiny raid really be the same if you could one-shot the boss? Doesn't it feel satisfying that a boss has 8 million health and you just two-shot him with your group because of your build synergy? It's something to build towards when you can really melt a giant bar of health, and it feels good. I understand that it's a bit of a trope, of a really boring trope of the looter shooter and RPGs in general to have these kinds of enemies, but I think it's really tough to get around them. Also, Anthem's combat is just very strong. It's fluid, it's responsive. It features a combo meter, and like many RPGs of the past, it's asking the player to apply some status effect and some crowd control and a wide range of elemental effects on enemies to create a prime, which can be backed up by another javelin to create combos. People are comparing it a lot to Mass Effect, and that's fair, but the thing that I see in it is Dragon Age. It's like they turned the first Dragon Age, which is brilliant, into a very fast shooting game, because there you do apply a lot of crowd control, a lot of AoE, a lot of like, you debuff, you take aggro, and this going on in this game. At its core, it is an RPG through and through. So you create these combos by building these build synergies with other javelins. The Ranger will probably prime with Venom Darts, and then your Storm will come in and put a Glacial Spear down, and all the meanwhile the Colossus is taking damage for you, so that you can pull off these. Also, you can create these hugely dramatic combinations that deal just devastating damage, and they come with a satisfying audio cue, and of course you get to see that massive health bar melt. That's working. It's working for them. And so that's what I have to say about Anthem. I've had a positive, admittedly surprisingly positive, and like I said, I'm making another video talking about how skeptical I've become of this whole genre, and especially of pre-ordering, even though I did decide to pull the trigger on Anthem. And I don't want to be gloating, because I felt like I was gloating on 76, and I was wrong. I got that game wrong, so. But I'm coming away with a positive impression here. I'm not going to gush. I'm not going to defend EA. I'm not going to bring forth some call to arms like I did with 76. Come on, Bethesda fans, get behind them, because again, I was wrong. And I argued full-heartedly for 76, and I've seen a company I loved lose a lot of respect personally to me as it sells Carnival exit through the gift shop garbage for a game that needs a lot of love. So all I can see is I'll see you at twitch.tv/stuck-on-Pandora.
Hey, door's still closed, there's stones everywhere.
You should work yourself out.
Good.
Energy readings are stabilizing. All this slowly. The data center